Hey, sheeples. It is Sheep Guarding Llama. I am Scott Allen Miller. It is the 19th of January, 2020. And today is our big day going to free play for Liesl's second or third or fourth birthday party. She really got a lot of parties this year. But this one is the family cousin's birthday party, which has just not been able to happen because originally the plan was that we were going to take her friends here in Dallas and her cousins and go to free play and do a bigger party, and just it couldn't happen. So we did the one with her friends a few weeks ago, and now we're doing the one with her cousins. So she's getting more tinier parties rather than one big one, but they enjoy going to free play, so it works out. And really, you pay per person, so it's not that much more. I mean, it's a little bit more expensive because like the adults go twice or whatever, but it's not a huge thing. So that they actually open pretty early in the morning. So between us going out late and sleeping in, pretty much got up, got kids in the shower. I got in the shower. I didn't get to shower because I showered last night. Didn't have time to shower, and got out the door. Right, it was just get dressed, get ready, get out the door. Dominica and Paul spent a lot of the morning working on decorating Liesl's cake. Separate videos of all that stuff already posted. So videos at Free Play, videos of her birthday cake, which is like I think it's a My Hero Academia thing. It's an anime character that I don't know, but it's from one of the ones she's really into. And so had the cake, went there. Free play was lots of fun. As always, not my thing. I'm not an arcade guy. But this actually worked out pretty well. We got there, the kids did a whole bunch on their own, because they're more organized, so they were able to keep themselves pretty occupied playing with each other. Whereas when they did it last time for Liesl's birthday with her friends, they were less focused and just kind of ran off and did their own things, which is fine, but it wasn't as much fun, I don't think, for them. So with the cousins, they all just got together and kind of moved from thing to thing and did it. And Dominica and I actually played Time Crisis 3, which of course is an older classic, but it's not like super old. And like I've played them before because it's one of those, like all the free plays have this kind of thing. It's like a two-person shooter with a story. And Dominica and I actually played the entire game right to the end. We were at the end. We didn't realize we were at the end, and we're like, so exhausted, my hands sore and blah blah. So Francesca came over and she's like, I'll take over, and she took Dominica's gun, and I'm like, how come you could take over for her? She's like, I'll take over for you too. And she took my gun and put a foot on each pedal, and the credits rolled, and we're like, oh, we beat it. We didn't even, it felt like we were just warming up, but it was exhausting. You can see why that's the end. No one would want to play anymore, right? And had we actually been playing, we've been pumping quarters a lot because we got our butts kicked. But so I actually played Time Crisis 3 beginning to end and watched all the cutscenes. So I now know the deep story of whatever's going on. It sounds like an adventure of the Pink Panther and Lugash. It's not actually what it is, but it reminds you of that. So we did that, and then people were getting hungry. Francesca's been looking forward to eating at Fuzzy's. So this is funny, but so you can't bring food into, you can bring cake in, but not normal food into free play, just because of the way things work. So this was about noon, 12:15. Francesca and I decided that we would run out to Fuzzy's and feed us, get a little bit of food and leave it in the car. And the kids mostly, they didn't want to go anywhere. None of them really want tacos. None of them are into tacos really that much. So they ordered a little bit of food at free play. Dominica didn't feel there was anything at Fuzzy's that she was really looking for, so she stayed with everybody, and Francesca and I just went. And Francesca got a standard beef taco and the veggie taco, which is amazing at Fuzzy's. I got one of the veggies, I got one of the mahi-mahis, and I got a breakfast taco, which is just eggs, cheese, and potatoes. It's all really, really good. As always, Fuzzy's is great. Francesca was very impressed. She thought she was going to kind of like it, and she's kind of interested because there's a Fuzzy's going in somewhere in Houston, but she was like, the veggie just blew her mind. She's like, this is the best veggie taco ever. So that was cool. And we got to hang out and got to talk a bit about all the business stuff that's going on, and there's just so much going on there that's like just a million things to explain. And she was actually like, wow, like the cool new jobs that may be coming up in Nicaragua might actually be interesting and really cool. And so we actually talked about a whole bunch of stuff and had a good time. Had to rush back at 2:00 because Dominica texted us that the kit all the kids had entered into a Street Fighter 2 tournament. Very small thing, right? But it's so Free Play does these things for the kids on Sunday afternoons, where they just get them together, and just the kids that are at the Free Play can sign up. It's free, and they can win some things by competing in a tournament. So it's like a really minor introduction to esports, right? It would be kind of like, if sports leads you on to baseball and football and blah, 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 it would be like having a community rec center impromptu ping pong ball tournament, right? Like, it's a real thing, and this is how sports would kind of work, but it's Street Fighter 2 at the arcade. But it was really interesting. So they did it, and there was a mix of kids, and obviously the cousins were a large number of them. Free Play on a Sunday afternoon does not have that many people. But they did it. Unfortunately, Luciana got knocked out really quickly. And she was by far the youngest, and it was just and it's a game she hadn't played, and she was not very happy about I don't think she was expecting to win or even do really well, but she was knocked out really quickly and came in last place, and that made her a bit upset the whole time. But Liesl managed to knock out all of her cousins, and then knocked out pretty much everyone else, and ended up, after many rounds, coming in second place, which was only the top 2 places got anything. The first one got like some cool prizes, and then she got something little. And when they were all done, the organizer came over and spoke to us and said, he does this all the time, and this is a regular thing. He really knows what it's like. He watches the kids and has a good feel for it. And he said that Liesl did not come in second place by chance, that she really knew what she was doing, and like it was very much a natural, and had skill, and had earned second place. And the boy who beat her was like 14 or 15, clearly knew the game, much older, so that she's 11, and it's a game she's barely played a couple times, that she came in second. And he said it was a really big deal. She did extremely well, and gave us his business card, and said that they have a kind of esports group for this kind of thing, and he'd really like to see her joining and get active, because he thinks that this is something that she would really enjoy and be into. And of course, esports is a big career now, so this is something that she really needs to consider, because she's at an age where she needs to be preparing for those kinds of things. So it was really interesting and exciting, and Liesl's hoping that she gets to do that. We're going to try to orchestrate it. So that's all very cool, and potentially a huge development in her life, or nothing, if but this, for all we know, this is the moment when her esports career takes off, which would be super awesome. And considering things like this that she played, so first of all, her cousin Jeremy is basically very much into esports, and that's a thing that he potentially could do as a career. And I'm too old for that stuff, but when I was younger, games like Ballistics, which is now Rocket League, but I played that when it first released in 1989. It was called Ballistics by Psygnosis, and it's just been rebranded over the years, believe it or not, that many 31 years later. And later with like Age of Empires 2, but there were a number of games over the years where, had there been esports, I would have been able to compete in esports. The original Tetris, from the published numbers, I broke the number 2 highest score ever, right? According to the published numbers. The Guinness Book of World Records, I came 1 shy of the record. Defender, I beat the published record, right? So had there been esports for those things when I was growing up, that's something I could have done, right? So it's definitely a family thing, and Liesl really needs to take it seriously. And all this is going on at the same time that when we're watching her play Beat Saber, the degree to which she's an expert on Beat Saber is unbelievable. And really, that's Paul's watching her every day, Dominica's watching her every day. She's playing on, so the highest you can go on Beat Saber is Expert Plus, and at this point she's doing a lot of the things on Expert Plus like the first time, and she actually speeds them up to get more of a challenge out of it. She's essentially mastered the game from a casual perspective. Obviously, mastering it from a esports perspective is much harder, but she's at a point where it's ridiculous. None of us could ever catch her, and she's only been playing for a few weeks. So that's, this is kind of stuff, and Garrett even said, from what Liesl's doing, if she was putting these videos online, she would be getting millions of hits for how good she is at some of these games. So it's a real thing. It's a real thing that we have to think about and talk about, and consider that esports may be a big part of her life, and may be in many ways an alternative to a lot of like school extracurricular type activities that she would otherwise do, soccer or something. So that was a really interesting development for the afternoon, and a really cool thing that just worked out. We were there for almost 4 hours, I think, today. We got our money's worth for sure. Had a good time. Came back home, and immediately Dominica and Francesca had to go out and do a little bit more shopping. We actually had to cut the free play time about when we did, because they had to get out to a couple stores before they closed and return some things and get some things. So they went shopping again. And then this evening was mostly just chilling around the house. They did VR all evening. That was huge, that everybody, not me, but everyone else just got in the line and did that until decently late. The Graces will be taking off in the morning. So when we went to bed tonight, we will not see them tomorrow because they're leaving really, really early in the day. Today, this evening, I picked up Ni no Kuni, which is a video game from Level 5. I don't normally spend more than a couple bucks on a video game, but this one was $30, and I had to get it because I've been waiting for a spiritual successor to Dragon Quest VIII since 2007, when I last got to play it on the PS2 when Dominica and I were living in New Jersey. I had not played video games for a long time. You can go back and read Cheap Guarding Llama about all that, but I had not played in a really long time, and I picked up a PS2. It was an interesting story. We were making good money. I was working on Wall Street. Dominica was working for the pharmaceutical at the time, so we had dual income we had no kids at the time, money pouring out of our ears, living in New York City, and we had no video games. We had nothing like that. And I said, you know what? There was a lot of stuff on the PlayStation 2 because the PS3 had come out. And I was like, there's a lot of stuff on the PS2 that looked really good, and I just skipped that whole era. I never played a single game on the PS2. I had a PS1 when I used to live with Josh and Andy, and I played it a little bit, like Parasite Eve and Final Fantasy VII, but almost nothing. And I'd had a Dreamcast that Andy had given me as a hand-me-down, kind of, and there's a couple games on that I'd gotten into. I only played it a little bit because it was free. I never got into any of the games. Shenmue was the only thing I put any time into. And I was like, I'd kind of like to have video games again. And Dominica's like, they're so cheap, just go get them used and go crazy. Like, whatever. It was all, it was like one day of earnings would buy every video game you could possibly want. And I'm like, you're right. And so I ran out to GameStop. I went online, did some research, found every game on the PS2 that I was ever interested in or could be interested in, a lot of which I'd never heard of. Went to GameStop, bought a used PS2 for, I don't know, $80 or something. It was crazy. And bought literally every single game that I would want on the platform, all in one day, all used. Probably spent several $100s, but it wasn't anything extreme. Came home with this big box of games, and the first one that I was really into, I simplified that. It was not all in one day like that, but that's basically what happened over a course of like a week or two. And picked up Dragon Quest VIII, thought it looked really interesting, started playing it, absolutely fell in love with the game, as did Dominica. And remember, we had not really video gamed together ever. I mean, there was the AoE 2 stuff, there was Quake 2, a little bit of Call of Duty. She had played The Sims, right? It was not that we were non-video game people, it just wasn't a big part of our lives. But with the PS2, and I really only ended up playing this one game on the PS2 more than just trying a few things out. I just never had time. This one was so perfect. It took 95 hours to beat the game. We had this love seat it was like a 1.5 seater reclining chair. So it was like halfway between a big recliner and a love seat. It was weird. And we had Oreo at the time. And I played 95 hours of that game with Dominica and Oreo snuggled in that chair with me and went through. The game was so good. It was such good voice acting. It had such beautiful graphics. Even though it was a PS2, which was pretty old, it was one of the later PS2 games. So it had the widescreen and the 480p widescreen resolution. So it looked excellent at the time, even on modern screens. And it was cel shaded, so even though the 3D rendering was this ancient PS2 3D rendering, it looked like you were playing a a cartoon, like a Studio Ghibli film. It was amazing how well they made it look and sound, and the scoring was great. And there was moments where you'd soar over the landscape, and it was just breathtaking in this old PS2 game. It made video gaming amazing to me again. It was like all the things I'd always wanted in a video game, but never thought that there was. It was all the pieces. There was no single groundbreaking thing. It was just everything was done right, along with really good writing and story and acting, and it just came together to be like the perfect game. Loved it, loved it, loved it, and Dominica loved it, and it was a huge thing at that time. Shortly thereafter is when we got pregnant with Liesl, and we got the Xbox and the PS3 because of that game, and ended up playing games like Skyrim and Fable 2, which are the things I was playing when Liesl was born. So the PS2 ended up languishing, even though so many amazing titles that maybe someday I'll get to play, but that's the one. So anyway, so that game with that history, Ni no Kuni, which hopefully I'm getting that name right, is made by the same company, but was made 20 years later, almost. And that's probably not, no, it was probably made 10 years later, right? But then it was just remade again 10 years after that. So the version that I picked up for $30 is only a few months old. But it's the one that originally released in 2010. It's the first one of the series, and it looks absolutely breathtaking. It runs in 4K, but it's the style of Dragon Quest VIII, but now in whatever that is, 16 or 32 times higher resolution. And it's original IP, not the old Dragon Quest stuff, so you're not fighting paper clips or whatever. And it looks like it's going to be amazing, and it already has a sequel out, a direct sequel that looks really good, and I really want to play, but that one's like $50-$60. It wasn't on sale. This one was 50, but I got it on sale for 30. That's why I decided to grab it on the sale today. But I've really wanted to get back into these games specifically, and so crazy excited about this. Liesl's excited about it. Luciana's excited about it. Garrett thought it looked really good. And when we started playing, we figured out that just 2 days ago, Netflix released the movie of this game on Netflix. So it's meant to be like a companion to the first video game. So now we have a full anime movie on Netflix to watch to go with this. So Liesl and Luciana and Garrett all climbed on the couch, and we put in 2 or 3 hours. I think it was 2 hours on this game before everyone went to bed, and it really looks excellent. I mean, and it's not only is it level 5 who did Dragon Quest VIII, it feels like you're playing the next Dragon Quest game, right? It totally feels the same, which makes me so happy. But all the cutscenes are actually made by Studio Ghibli, so it looks like you're in The Cat Returns, or Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind, Porco Rosso, Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, Grave of the Fireflies, all these amazing, amazing movies that I think are so great. Now I get to play a video game of one. Like, you're actually in it. It's phenomenal. So that was a big thing this evening. So between sleeping in late, free play, a little bit of VR madness, and then this 2 hours solid, and it took over an hour to download it. So it was a 3-hour ordeal to play Ni no Kuni before going to bed. That was the day. I didn't have to do any work, or very little work today. It worked out great. That was a lot of fun, and I will see everybody tomorrow.